I'm very, I like to do all or nothing. And I think, especially in this industry, if you really, if you have the passion and you really think that you have a great idea, I think the best way to have the most successful, go at it is to just go for it.
That was Ali Maffucci, and this is episode 62 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. I am your host, and this is the Chopped Podcast. You know this is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. Each week, my goal is to share with you interviews, thoughts, stories, everything related to food blogging so that we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Today, I'm talking to Ali Maffucci. She's of the site Inspiralized. Have you heard of it? It's a great site, and it has a perfect name because this story today is so inspiring. In fact, maybe I should even call it Inspiralized. I know, I'm so funny. Ali had a dream, and she followed her passion. In fact, she was so struck by the passion of her dream that she quit her job before she even started her blog. You know how we hear these stories of people and how they stay at their job for so long and then they, finally realize the day that they can quit and pursue their blog full time. Ali was completely the opposite. She was so struck by the idea that she quit her job. And sometimes in the business world, we would refer to this as burning the platform. You're so committed to the idea of moving forward and the change that is in front of you that you leap from the burning platform you're on. And I'm not saying that Ali's previous job was perilous for her, but her dream inspired her so much that she couldn't look back. And I mean, how is that story not just so inspiring? So Ali started her blog, Inspiralized, and then she did something pretty amazing. She reached out to food bloggers she had admired for a while. How impressive is that? And she got sage advice from them and things that have really helped her, and as a result, her site has really taken off. That's why I'm calling today's post Creative Business Strategies for Food Bloggers, because Ali has several creative business strategies that she's been using. She's not just a food blogger, she's also designed a product that she sells, and now she's even working with a national restaurant chain where she developed recipes that they're featuring at their restaurants. What an impressive story is that, right? I can't wait to share that with you. But first, let's talk chop. We're already lining up an amazing lineup of speakers like Jessica Merchant of How Sweet Eats and Emma Chapman of A Beautiful Mess. And this year, I'm introducing something new. We're going to have co-hosts. The first is Fee Kellenhofer. You know her with the site Sweet Fee. She was on a previous episode of the Chopped Podcast as well. And also Kara Anzus of the site Fork and Beans, who was also previously on the Chopped Podcast. So not only are these two working with me behind the scenes on planning the conference, they will also be there at the conference as well. I'm so excited about this because it means an even better conference for you. And that's what it's all about. And next weekend, Kansas City is opening up the streetcars. God, I can't wait. Come join me and Kara and Fee and Jessica and Emma and more, and even ride a streetcar for yourself. You can go to choppedcon.com today and click on register to buy your ticket. So let's get straight to today's feature interview with Ali Maffucci. Today, I want to give a big old shout out to Christina of I Say Nomado. Great site name, Christina. Christina mentioned on Twitter recently that she's been listening to the Chopped Podcast while doing some data entry. You know what? Sometimes I love work like data entry because it gives me a good excuse to listen to something fun. Okay, everyone, in honor of Christina, open up your spreadsheets, get out those earbuds, turn up the volume, and let's talk about all things food blogging and so much more. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Ali Maffucci of the site Inspiralized on the show today. Ali, welcome to the Chopped Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm really looking forward to talking with you today because, well, you've got this great, inspiring story about how you started your food blog, and now you're working with this national chain, restaurant chain, and I'm really excited, and there's so much to talk with about that. But first, it would be great for everybody if you could, give a little introduction about how it is that you started your food blog.
Of course. So all the credit has to go to my mother, really. I was actually my mother was trying raw veganism as a way to help with her blood sugar levels because she is a type 1 diabetic. And she, through her, raw veganism, she discovered the spiralizer and discovered zucchini noodles. And then she started spiralizing and really fell in love with it and saw that it was truly helping her health. So she ended up having me over for dinner one night and she made me a raw zucchini noodle dish, an Asian dressing, I remember. And I took one bite and I could not believe how much it tasted like spaghetti. I was blown away by the consistency, and I grew up Italian American, so I was very familiar with pasta and spaghetti, and I ate a lot of it. So this was sort of one of those things where I said, oh, I cannot believe I didn't know about this. So I took the spiralizer home actually that night. I took it from my mom and I went home the next night and I made a dish that was hot. So I made it was a tomato basil zucchini noodle dish with shrimp or something like that and artichokes. And I made it for my husband and he tried it and he said he had the exact same reaction. He couldn't believe it. So we said, well, maybe we're just late to the game. So we went online and we searched spiralizing or spiralized recipes and there was absolutely nothing. There were a couple raw vegan recipes and there was a mention of it in the New York Times, but there was nothing, nothing like it is now. So basically about 2 months went by and I was working in corporate America and I was finding myself more excited to come home and cook dinner than be at my desk job. And I was just having this creative feeling and I was just so excited about it and showing people what I was making. It was a lot of fun. And so I basically built up the courage and I walked into my boss's office and I quit. And then the next day I went to a coffee shop, bought inspiralize.com and started the blog.
That is amazing. What a great story that is.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I was so passionate about it and I truly wanted to build a community and build a resource for spiralizing because I was finding myself saying, well, what can I spiralize or what do I make? And it was just so excited and I wanted to be the one to promote spiralizing.
I have this vision of, your mom going on and on about these spiralized zucchini noodles. And I could just imagine myself in that situation, kind of like rolling my eyes like, okay, mom, I get it. And then it turns into be your business now.
Yes, exactly. And she likes to remind me of that.
That's a good mother.
Yeah.
I like that. And I think another thing that's really great about your story is it's so different. Like, I think a lot of people, they stay in their job and they're slowly working and slowly building up their blog. And then they quit. And you were like, I'm quitting. And you started the blog the next day. That's impressive.
Yes, I'm very good about cold turkeying things. I became a vegan once, and I just became a vegan from scratch once I learned about it. So I'm very I like to do all or nothing, and I think especially in this industry, if you really if you have the passion and you really think that you have a great idea, I think the best way to have the most successful go at it is to just go for it.
Well, you said that you were kind of becoming more interested in the cooking than the corporate side, and I'm just curious, was that new to you? Have you always had an interest in cooking, or was it just something that came out of nowhere?
So I know I just briefly mentioned being a vegan. I actually, my senior year of college, I became a vegan and I was vegan for about 2 years. And honestly, so that was about 2008 and through 2010. Those were the 2 years that I learned how to cook. And I hadn't cooked before that, which is very surprising to a lot of people. But I learned how to cook and I attribute a lot of my ideas and the way I use and interpret vegetables to the fact that the first time I really began cooking, I was cooking mostly vegetables because I was a vegan. So I don't have a formal culinary training. I learn most of the things I learned from my mother who cooked and from my Italian grandparents.
That Italian grandparents sound like it would be kind of handy to have around.
Yes, definitely. I grew up with a lot of cooking and that being the center of attention always. So I think it was ingrained in me and subconsciously I was going to become a cook one day.
Yeah. What about photography? Do you do your own photography for the site?
Yes, I do.
Now, how about that? Was that something like, you already knew how to take those shots or did you, have to learn those skills?
So I had to learn everything. I mean, I knew nothing about the blogging world. I didn't know how you could monetize a blog. I barely knew how to set one up, and I probably should have looked into it before I started. So there's a steep learning curve there, but I I learned everything honestly on just Google and YouTube and asking other bloggers and saying, "Oh, well, I really like the style of photos you take. What do you do? What are your settings? What kind of light do you use?" And that was really helpful.
Oh, that's good. In fact, that kind of leads me to my next question. I was curious what has been your favorite part about food blogging, and it sounds like one of the answers might be the ability to reach out and the community that's involved there.
Definitely. I mean, my favorite part of food blogging is, and because I'm a niche food blogger. Honestly, my favorite part is every time I get an email from one of my readers saying, "I learned about spiralizing because of you and I haven't stopped and I love it and I eat so many more, I eat more differently now. I eat more vegetables." Those are the things that I love most about food blogging, but the community is definitely something that has become a very comforting environment for when I'm having those bad days or,
Yeah,
I'm judging. I mean, we're all, no matter what
right.
industry you are, sometimes you're just, you think, "Oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it right. I'm not big enough.
Yes.
I don't have enough followers." So it's been very comforting to have friends in the community.
Is there anything about food blogging that you haven't liked so much?
Certain social media channels I found just to be time consuming and difficult.
Right.
I love Instagram. I'm a huge Instagram fan, but I don't really love Twitter or Facebook. So, building sort of an editorial calendar for your social media and being present all the time on all social media channels can sometimes get a little suffocating, but I've
Yeah.
learned now how to manage it and how to do it so that it doesn't become overwhelming.
I think that's so important because I think, at least from my perspective, the things that I've found is like if I don't do it from that, I end up hating it. And then I think, why am I doing this if I hate it? But if I can kind of like hit refresh and do it from a better spot.
Right, right. No, I completely agree.
So, one of the main reasons I asked you to join me today was to talk about something that's kind of exciting that's coming your way. And that is your recipes are being used by a national food chain. Can you talk about that?
Yes, of course. So I was randomly emailed by the senior vice president of marketing at Houlihan's, and she was RSing herself and discovered me through social media and loved what I was doing. And she emailed me with the idea to literally design a specials menu. So the restaurant issues seasonal specials menu every year. So they have a winter one and a summer one, and they wanted to make one that was completely spiralized. So they
Wow.
asked, yeah, so they asked me to design it.
How cool is that? I mean, I just think I love the idea of food blogging anyway, but to know that someone was watching your, social media feed and as a result reached out to you, that's so exciting.
Yeah, I tell everyone, I say, if you don't put anything out there, then there's no chance for anyone to discover how truly great you are. So I always
Yeah.
encourage people, no matter what, just keep putting things out there and you just never know who's watching. And she happened to be watching me, which is really exciting. And I see this very often now with online influencers. You see it, there's actual commercials on television now featuring bloggers, which you never saw before. It was always, Hollywood celebrities. So I find
Yes.
it very interesting that brands are starting to reach out to the online influencers.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I think is inspiration about your story is the fact that your site is so, I mean, I never know how to say that. I always say niche or niched, but your site is so specific. And I could see where, I don't know, like it could be easy to worry about that. But yet, here you're getting this national exposure. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, sometimes and to go back to your other question about what's the worst part about
Yeah.
doing a food blog, it's so difficult when the holidays come around and everyone's searching for cookie recipes and things like that or chocolate recipes for those sort of
Oh,
seasonal things.
right.
And as a health food blogger, no one's looking to be healthy around the holidays. So it's
So
very
true.
difficult. So it's a very seasonal. A niche is great because when you do get someone searching, they'll find you because there's no other choice. But
Right.
in the times when you want to be noticed, it's difficult around certain times of year.
But that's a pendulum, right? Because, when you have this wild swing towards all cookies and cakes, but then there's going to be a wild swing back because, in January, everybody's going to be entirely focused on being healthy.
Oh, 100%. I have my highest page views are always in January. I always make records every year at January.
I bet.
Yeah, so it's good. It all works out in the end, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I thought it was really cool. I was on your site kind of getting ready for this interview, and I was surprised to learn that the head chef was in Kansas City.
Yes, yes. I went to Kansas City. They brought me to their corporate headquarters. That's where the company's based. And I met with the chef and we developed recipes that I had suggested a few before I got there. And then we kind of tweaked them. And, I've never worked in a restaurant, so I didn't know the
Right.
nuances when serving to the masses. So he kind of tweaked the recipes that way. And then we finally came to terms with three recipes. And I actually just found out that two of my dishes are their best selling items on the entire menu in all of their locations.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So the world wants more vegetables, is what I'm saying.
It's so true. And they want vegetables that taste good.
Right. Exactly. And that's why spiralizing is amazing because you don't feel like you're eating, quote unquote, healthy food.
Yes.
You're getting to eat pasta and you're getting to eat, noodle dishes and you're still satisfying, your waistline.
Yeah, I'm vegan as well. So I know how that feels like. It seems like when you go to a restaurant, you're always stuck with a salad. So to be able to choose something that feels like, you're eating pasta, that's so great.
Yeah, definitely. I've loved it. And clearly people are loving it too, the public.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I can't even imagine how exciting it must be like to go into some national restaurant chain and see your recipes, that you created and they're now using. I mean, is that just an amazing experience?
It's incredibly humbling.
Mm.
And I mean, what's even more exciting is that all of the servers in the store to promote the specials menu or in the restaurants, they are wearing shirts that say that have my name on it or in the word inspiralized on it. So the t-shirts say, "I'd spiralize that," hashtag inspiralized.
Wow.
So I went into a Houlihan's here in New Jersey, and all the waiters and waitresses were wearing them, and it's so cool. It's very surreal for
Oh
sure.
man.
Yes.
That is very great. And I was kind of curious about that because I'm curious, you're working with this national restaurant chain. Are you getting some great like PR ideas from them?
Yes, definitely. I mean, they have from everything from the coasters that say cute phrases with, the playing on the veggie noodle concept.
Yes.
They have a billboard in New Jersey that has my face on it
Wow.
and the word inspiralize. I just actually posted it to my Instagram. I mean, things like that. If you had asked me 3 years ago what I would be doing, it certainly wouldn't be this, but I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it's kind of an example of how, I don't know, the reality it can be greater than the vision you even hold for your own self.
Oh, definitely. I could never have imagined all of this. And
That's cool.
Houlihan's has been such a supportive partner, and, I have a feeling we'll keep working together.
Well, I guess that's the other part of it too, right? That your partnership and your work with them has always passed your test, right? I mean, I imagine you had some things that you needed to have met, some goals on your end, and you wanted to make sure that the recipes were quality and that you would feel like you were well represented. And so I imagine all along the way there were these little tests, and they kept passing.
Yes, 100%. And they kept, they listened to me and they were honestly excited to have these healthy menu items. So they were willing to, do those tough decisions where maybe it's more expensive to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe all natural peanut butter is expensive, but it's worth it. And they want to support this healthy mission. And all of their food has always been cooked from scratch. So they were a great partner from the beginning.
That's really cool. And another thing I like about this story is that I was just listening to an interview by Gary Vanderchuck, who wrote the book, I don't know, jab, 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 right hook. There's a lot of jabs in there. But
I have
anyway,
that
he,
one.
he was talking about how you should look at your creative entrepreneur, or whatever it is that you're doing, on the long haul. In other words, it's easy to take on some project uh, maybe out of fear because you really want to make money right away and you take the wrong project. But if you wait and if you play the long game, you have a better chance of being successful. And you were talking about being at this for 3 years and not, imagining this would be an outcome. And so I think this is some good words of, positive reinforcement for that.
Definitely. And there, as a food blogger that has a certain spin, I'm obviously, I don't use, and maybe the listeners here probably don't know, I don't use sugar or, milk, dairy, and I don't use processed carbohydrates. And I'm I use very healthy, wholesome ingredients. And there's been major brands that have reached out to me with major budgets, and I've had to make that hard decision and say no. It's very difficult to turn down those big offers from those big brands with those big budgets. And you have to really do that to stay genuine, because the more genuine you are with your mission and the way that you cook food, the more that you'll get this loyal following that really understands you and trusts you and keeps coming back. So there have been definitely difficult times where I've been like, oh, that would be so much money. I could pay my rent for a month of that. But
Yeah.
I have to turn it down, unfortunately, and just hope that the right brand will come along with with a good budget who can help me. And fortunately for me, that's now happened, but it definitely takes years.
That's so great. And it's just like, you know yourself. You, like you were saying, you know what you want in your recipes, you know the quality, and just knowing the vision that you have for yourself, I think is one of the reasons this came about for you.
Yes, definitely. I mean, from day one, I put on my blog, these are the ingredients that I don't use. This is my philosophy about healthy eating. And I think I've really worked hard to promote that. And it's just so important. And I think that it has led to a lot of success.
Yeah, that's so great. And I know that we could probably talk about this restaurant deal all day, but I wanted to go into a little bit about the blogging stuff that you do as well. So I'm curious, I noticed that you have an app on your site. Was that a lot of work to put together?
So I actually really lucked out. There was a fellow food blogger who had a husband who was an app developer, and they were trying out developing apps for other food bloggers as a business. And I was, I guess you could call a guinea pig of theirs. So it was
Yeah.
complimentary. They put the app together for me. They didn't, charge me, and I was sort of their guinea pig. And they don't unfortunately do it any longer, but I now have this app, and I've invested money to improve it and keep it going. But initially, they handled everything, so I'm very, very lucky.
Has it been good to have an app, you think?
Yes, I use my own app, so I would imagine that people love it too. And I hear people more often than not saying, "Oh, I cooked something from the app tonight." So it's very interesting,
Ah,
instead of
cool.
saying I cooked a recipe from a blog, it's, "Oh, I cooked something from your app. Or I brought your app to the grocery store." So,
Ah, that's great. And, like you say, knowing that it's so useful is really helpful.
yes, definitely. And I survey people who have the app and ask for their feedback to try to keep improving it.
Yeah, very cool. Can you talk about the process that you go through for creating a blog post? This is always something that intrigues me. I love the kind of background information because I guess maybe I ask this question a lot because sometimes I feel like I'm doing it all wrong. Like, it just seems like it takes a long time. I'm curious, what's your process for going through and creating a blog post?
There's no wrong way, so don't worry. But I can tell
Thank
you,
you.
I can tell you what I
You sound like
do.
my life coach.
So I basically I type up a recipe and I print it out and I cook it and I make changes with a pen as I go along, and then I build the post from that point. So I use WordPress, so I'll go in and I'll plug in my recipe, and I'll upload my photos, and then I kind of, unless I'm super inspired in that moment, I'll write the post. But if not, I kind of build the little skeletons like that, and then I fill in the posts as it's time to post to my blog. So, for instance, yesterday I cooked a recipe, took the photos, I edited the photos, and I uploaded everything into WordPress. And all I had to do this morning was go in and write the post. And by the post, I mean, the text behind it.
I got you. Yeah, I see. You save the writing for the last. Yes, I do that too sometimes.
Yeah. If I'm going away and I'm not going to be home, I'll definitely bank posts and have finished posts ready to automatically go out. But honestly, I'm so last minute and I'm always running around. So I tend to do things early in the morning and finish them off and then post them.
Well, you sound like you've got a lot going on.
I think we're all definitely busy. I had a very busy few months because I'm actually coming out with another cookbook this year. So I've had to finish my manuscript, my first draft by New Year's. So all of December and the holidays were chaotic. And then the editing process begins. and the photo shoot, and it's just a lot right now. But hopefully in a couple months it'll die down.
So you're working on a deal with a national restaurant chain. You've got a blog that you're posting to regularly, and you're working on a cookbook,
And I have my own product.
and you have your own product. Exactly.
Yes. So I'm always dealing with customer service and things like that, which take up a lot of my time. So that's another thing that I constantly have to be conscious of and monitoring.
Well, and that leads me to a good question because I couldn't quite tell. Is that product the Inspiralizer then?
Yes. So I have my own spiralizer, which I came out with when my first cookbook published in February about a year ago.
Interesting. Wow, I can't
Yeah.
even imagine what was involved with that.
Yes, I designed and manufactured my own spiralizer called the Inspiralizer, and it was specially designed and developed by me. And I sell
Ah,
that
that's
through,
amazing.
yeah, I sell it on my website. It's now on Amazon. It's at williamsonoma.com, and we just found out that we got our first order from Whole Foods in the Northeast region.
Wow. And I
Yeah.
just can't, I mean, imagine that the work that you went into, creating these recipes, you probably had a really good idea of what you wanted to see in an Inspiralizer.
Yes, I mean from about 2 weeks into spiralizing way back when, those first 2 weeks, I immediately noticed things with the product that I was using that I was frustrated with, and I thought to myself, well, how am I going to keep spiralizing every day? It's not durable. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. So
Yeah.
when I started my blog, in the back of my mind, I said, when I'm ready, I'm going to launch my own better improved product, which I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that because, that's just all about facing your fears. I mean, I would have been, terrified about the idea of doing something like that, but to face that and to make that happen is so cool.
Yeah, I people always say things like that, and I honestly I grew up with my father is an entrepreneur, my grandfathers on both sides were entrepreneurs, my husband's an entrepreneur, so I've never actually seen as like a role model of someone working in corporate America. So to me, I was always like, oh well, I'll launch my own business once I have an idea. So I found that idea and I went with it because it never scared me because I knew that as normal, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. And here's one thing I'm curious about because I feel like that is a really great recipe, if we could call, use that term, a recipe for a blog that you've got great content, you've got, usable content that's recipes, and you've got a product that's for sale. I mean, it seems like that's a really good, recipe for success.
Yes, I mean, there's definitely ups and downs, and I'm still working it out and learning how to be a businesswoman and balancing my life and my marriage and my everything that's going on, my family, my friends. But it's just so exciting, and I'm always doing something different, and I couldn't be happier. And it honestly, all you do is have to keep moving forward and put one step in front of the other, and just wait, and then eventually hard work will pay off.
Oh, that's great. So I'm just curious, what's your number one tip for helping other food bloggers who, they may be trying to grow their audience or new at this? I'm just curious if you have feedback for them.
I would say, I mean, number one, always the first thing I did was reach out to my favorite food bloggers and introduce myself and say, hey, I just started food blogging. I love this that you do. I love that you do. I would love to hear, what works for you and sort of get that, one-on-one interaction with bloggers that I looked up to. And that really helped at first. And then they sort of kept me on the radar. And then now, it's funny looking back, I have some of my closest friends or bloggers, some of my closest blogger friends are the ones that I reached out to at the beginning. And they all say, it's so amazing to see that, see you reaching out to me 3 years ago and now see what you've done. So I think that really helped. And then, they promote my things and then I promote their things. And it's just this mutually
Yeah.
loving, encouraging environment that helps you grow, especially at the beginning.
Okay, that's a great tip because it's a time when you're probably your most vulnerable and reaching out to other people can be such a help and strength for you.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I didn't know anything about blogging. I didn't know, again, I had mentioned before about how to start a blog, how to make money, how the best time to post things. And I definitely did a lot of things wrong in the beginning. But when I would reach out to these bloggers, I remember one woman was like, if you want to be taken seriously as a blogger, you have to treat yourself seriously and treat your brand seriously, your blog seriously. So she took one look at my website and she said, invest in a better camera, invest in a design for your website, And she gave me such valuable feedback that I still incorporate every day. So I think we shouldn't be afraid to reach out to other people. And the worst that can happen is that they don't respond, which isn't bad at all, you know?
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such great advice. I love that. And I love the advice that she gave you that, I don't know, like try to think of yourself and try to think of yourself as a business person, but to really take that seriously as an entrepreneur, I think is so important.
Definitely. And never, someone once told me, when I was first starting out, to identify who your reader is, because at first I was posting recipes that had, whole wheat bread in them, which to me, I mean, I eat bread every day, but to me, I was seeing that those recipes weren't getting that many comments, weren't getting many likes or shares. And so I transitioned to a primarily, paleo and gluten-free blogger. And I saw that my content got shared so much more. And I started doing reader surveys, and I realized that, wow, over 50% of my readers are gluten-free. So I started to incorporate more recipes like that. But again, I'm not gluten-free. I eat everything. So I
Yeah.
definitely, I cater to as many people as I can, but all the while knowing my target audience.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So what's coming up next for you? Anything that you can share? I know you talked about the book. Anything else?
I know the book is pretty big.
Yeah.
I'm I'm working on my next product idea that goes in line with the Inspiralizer. So I'm focusing on that, and I'm focusing on bringing more video content this year. I want to launch a cooking series. So I'm trying to build that up behind the scenes to launch in a few months. I think that video content is really powerful, especially when you do have a niche cooking method like I do. So aside from continuing to build my following, I'm working on getting some other products in the pipeline, getting more distribution for my own product, and like I said, building that video series that I want to launch later this year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
No big deal, right?
I mean, aside from conquering the world, I don't know what else is left.
Exactly. Okay, so just a few quick and fun questions here at the end of the interview.
Sure.
What is one food item you can't live without?
Uh, Almond butter.
Almond butter. Okay. I thought maybe you were going to say zucchini.
No. I eat nut butter almost every single day, and I think I eat spiralized food maybe 85% of the time. So
Yeah.
I think I might like nut butter more than spiralizing. I wouldn't give up spiralizing for nut butter,
Wow.
but yeah.
How do you eat it? Do you put it on a banana? How do you eat?
I do. I actually am I eat it so much that I have to get very creative with how I eat it. But I really love right now oatmeal with almond butter and a little bit of all natural jelly and some spiralized noodles. I have that for breakfast almost every day
Wow.
lately,
Sounds
as of
delicious.
late. Yeah, as of late. But I have
Yes.
it, I always eat almond butter and banana before a workout. And I sometimes have it for dessert, like on toast or something like that.
Oh, I mean, I do that same thing with peanut butter, but I think almond butter sounds inspirational. I'm going to have to try that next. But
It is. And I love peanut butter as well. I'm just on an almond butter kick right now.
I like it. What's your
Yeah.
favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app on my phone, Instagram.
Okay, I thought maybe you
Does that count?
might say
Does that count?
Inspiralizer.
Oh, the Inspiralized app.
Yes.
I I would say social media wise, it would be Instagram. I'm big in
Yes.
Snapchat as well right now, but I use social media more than anything else on my phone, aside from Google Maps when I'm in the city for work. I'm very directionally challenged, so whenever I'm in New York for meetings, I always have Google Maps up.
Oh, I would need that too. I
Yeah.
need that here in Kansas City. I can't even imagine in New York.
Yes.
So, do you have any time for TV at all? And if you do, what's your favorite show?
I I do watch TV. I'm very good about logging off, and I think that that's something that is a struggle for a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs. But I value the time with my husband a lot, and at nighttime we'll just totally veg out and watch our favorite shows. So I'm very much into The Affair right now, but that's actually funny because he's not. But I tend to not watch television. I watch more things like Netflix and movies.
Yeah.
I don't really follow a show. The only one I actually am following right now is Broad City. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's on it is on Comedy Central.
Ah, okay. Let's
Yeah,
check
but you
that
can.
out.
Yeah, I started watching it on Hulu, but it is on Comedy Central.
Oh, cool. I love that. I can't
Yeah,
wait. I love adding new shows to my list, so that's perfect.
yeah, I'm really loving that.
So, how can people find you online?
So my website, obviously inspiralize.com, and the actual URL is for my blog is inspiralize.com/blog. I'm very active on Snapchat. My username is Inspiralized. I am very active on Instagram, and all my social media handles are Inspiralized except for YouTube, which is Get Inspiralized. And if you want to watch any videos on, how to spiralize or how to make, best tips and tricks for spiralizing, you can find that on YouTube. And I also do every other Wednesday, I do a what I ate video, and I follow myself around with a camera for the day, and I film every single thing I eat. And people really love those. So that's a fun thing to do on YouTube. That's like a constant series I have going on.
Oh, and it's very real time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but those are the main ways you can find me.
Ali, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I had a great time.
Of course, me too. Thank you for selecting me for the interview.
Thanks to Ali Maffucci for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. Be sure to go to choppedpodcast.com to buy your ticket to the Chopped Conference, learn more about today's show, and sign up for our newsletter to get the latest on all things food blogging. Tune in next week as I talk with Jocelyn Delk Adams of Grandbaby Cakes about how she got a cookbook deal and what she went through to write that book. It's such a fun interview, and I can't wait to share it with you. Speaking of fun, some of the best fun is sharing the Chop podcast with you. You can show your support for this podcast by leaving a review on iTunes or Stitcher, sharing about the show on social media, or even leaving a link on your own blog or podcast. And I love getting your emails too. It all means so much. I hope you know how much you inspire me, and I also hope today's show is helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.